Finally, the time has come, dude. Like it's almost like I wait all week amidst all the greatness that happens. In the back of my mind, the week isn't complete until I get to see the ReZero greatness, man. And Dape, please, because it's almost I would venture to say at this point for me, Dape Nagatsuki is on that Ishida status where I'm just like, just a little bit of chill would be greatly appreciated. I really don't think we're getting that. Although from what I hear about this episode and what people told me, a couple weeks back where they were like 14, 15, and episodes 8, 17, and 18, or where you really need to react to. So I'm guessing right now this episode will give us a modicum of chill. We'll probably get my boy trying to reassess the situation. We saw the wrath in his eyes, and that's something that there's a lot of stuff that I've wanted to talk about, but I haven't been able to simply because of the fact that last 2 weeks I wanted to do the normal review afterwards, and I was just too wrecked to do it. And hopefully this episode is chill enough to where I can actually compose myself and make a review afterwards, or maybe even do it at the tail end of the stream. We'll see how it goes. But nonetheless, I'm venturing to guess that Subaru is going to seek help initially from Krush, which I don't think, if he seeks help from any of the selection candidates, I really think he's going to be hard pressed to get them to help him. Maybe Reinhardt and Feld, but at the same time, I think that they're going to try and put up this divide between. So unless he's going to go back and train with Will G, or seek help from Krush, potentially Priscilla, I don't think any of them are really going to assist him though. So the man needs to go down some sort of path in order to subvert this fiend Betelgeuse, man, because after being wrecked by the end of the episode, and there's people that still are commenting and being like, yo, that wasn't Puck, that wasn't Puck, that wasn't Puck. And I'm just like, yo, I've been meaning to dispel this for the longest time. I actually had a special video for ReZero planned this week that I didn't get to before this episode as I had planned, because the week has been hectic. I've made like 30 plus videos in the entirety of this week. So I'm definitely going to try and get it out this week though. And with all of that said, I apologize for having to remake this event. There was a bunch of nonsense going on as soon as I opened up the event, and I looked at the chat real quick to see what was going on, and it was bullshit. So I had to take care of that, remake the event, and here we are right now. Gonna be streaming this on Crunchyroll. I generally don't like to do that because there's normally lag when I live stream and I'm streaming off of Crunchyroll. So it is what it is. If that happens, I'm gonna have to ask you guys to bear with me on that point. And last thing I really want to say, and good shit, Zara's here. So now I have Mitra and Zara to help me deal with this bullshit in the chat. I'm gonna hide the chat at this point now, and I will come back to you guys as soon as I'm done with this reaction. But the last thing I want to say is thank you guys so fucking much for the support on the last video. It blew me away. It really blew me away just to see how positive a response this got, because I'm not used to streams getting that kind of response. Maybe if it was an uploaded video, I wouldn't have been as surprised, but we have over 1,000 likes on the episode 15 live reaction. That's all thanks to you guys. That's all thanks to your support. And I'm going to ask you again now, and probably once more later, to absolutely destroy that like button right now if you're loving ReZero, if you like these reactions in the slightest, even just a bit. Every single person here, if each of you smashes that like button, we can, get closer. I don't expect us to get anywhere near that number again this week, but maybe I want to set the goal at 500 likes. I want to set the goal at 500 likes. That's probably a stretch as well, but let's aim for that. Let's aim high, and you feel me? That's how it goes. And anyone to all the haters out there, whatever, fuck y'all. And with all that said, let's finally get into it. ReZero episode 16. I really hope I can do a review after this, man. I really do. Let me put these shades right here, man. Let me put the shades right here, just in case any sort of insanity ensues, and I need these to shield myself. But yeah, let's go. Start the episode in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. After the savagery, the last episode was too much for me. and seeing him walk with Rem in hand back to Crucia's mansion. And who is this that we have here? Russell Ferro. Dude, this man. Dude, there's definitely I feel something off about that man already. He's a shrewd dealing. Yeah. I mean, you can get that vibe off him already. But there's some shade lingering there as well. No opening yet again. And how are you going to tell him that you obtained this information, Subaru? That's my thing. Of course, Crush is privy. That's because she was contracted to. Exactly. She told you this already. Dude, Crush is fucking amazing. Damn. Exactly. Your movements, I mean, realistically, I feel you, Subaru, but these movements have large implications. Of course it does, because Puck goes on a fiendish rampage. Exactly. You're not the one that can... Who gave you the authority to do that, though? Kirsch is fucking savage. I'm in love. Damn. I knew she would bring this into the equation right here. Damn. My God, dude, Rem is too much love at this point. Yo, those eyes! Oh my God. Dude, the hatred is coursing through him. At this point, up to this stage, he's embodied pretty much every single sin. That glint in your eyes, exactly, dude. Wait. We need these from the jump, son. I knew utter wrath had consumed his heart, but to this extent. And I'm fine with it, too. Wilhelm says, step back, son. Misstep after misstep, my boy. Oh my god, dude. Cruz is far too discerning. Nothing short of madness. That bite, yo. The level of emotion in this scene alone, tempered by the collection of Cruz. I knew she wouldn't help you, man. Everything she said was purely logical and a fair assessment. Nobody can really understand where you're coming from, except for the viewer base. And at that stage, I feel your rage, my son, but because we cannot let anything happen to this fucking angel right here. And I refuse to witness anyone laying hands on EMT. That's where he is. All right, we can scratch off the hashtag where's Rosewall. Now that's... I knew your next thought would be Reinhardt. Damn, that was probably your only bet, son. Oh, yo, you went to the goddess. I knew you would, man. What's to say she'll probably help him, if anything, on a passing whim, but I seriously doubt that as well. So much love. Look at that outfit, man. I could just lop off your head for you right now. Priscilla's bae, man. I'm hard pressed to shift the power to shift my rankings though, because Krush is too real. So I'm gonna have to put Krush above Felt at this point until Felt gets some more shine. I'll break down the rankings after this. Like a baby suckling on its mother's teeth. I'll consider your proposal. You know Subaru will do it too. And I guarantee you if he does, she still leaves him off. And abandon the mistress you wagged your tail for them. Dude, Priscilla's dialogue is incredible. I feel as though I just resonate so much with Subaru at this point. Like every action, I can foresee it simply because it's most likely how I'd respond. Son. was neither loyalty or devotion. A pig's greed. I agree with that, with both of those lines right there. It's extremely careless. Dude, it's the first time I've heard this man's real name like that. Yo, so many subtle implications in that dialogue right there. The Kyodai line is great to me, though, as we know that Al is also most likely in Subaru's situation, which is something I've been wanting to talk about at length. But and for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, the fact that he knows what a Kansai accent is was the giveaway there. I haven't talked about it since episode 12 simply because it hasn't come up. And it's that kind of dismissive mentality, son. Mimi. Wow. You do not want to get involved with Anastasia, man. You definitely do not want to get involved with this bitch. See, the problem with Subaru's actions is that no matter what, it's still rooted in a great deal of selfishness. And he's failing to consider too many portions of the greater picture. And at the same time, it's this sort of self-importance, which realistically, even though he himself truly probably believes he's being selfless, he's lying to himself to a degree in thinking that his own existence has that much weight. Yo, that's a beast line, though, Anastasia. At the very least, you can count on all these characters to have some goat dialogue. I don't know how I feel about Mimi. She's cute, yes, but second in command. Wait, she's a savage like that? Personal mercenary squad, Iron Fang. Wait. I'm gonna have to reconsider that previous line. Scratch that. If she goes in like that I have to see. Thinks in the capitalist fluctuating now. This dialogue is amazing, and the perspective that Anastasia provides is much needed too. From that kind of mercantile realm, we've barely scratched the surface. We've definitely touched the political elements, but it's been mainly rooted in the inner workings of the top. But to get kind of a deeper and more base level political and economic scheme is amazing. That's why Russell guy was there. I want to hear what she has to say about this fiend. He's quite a big fish. Yo, and you're letting... See, that's the thing, too. And this man is a wild card right now. Letting things slip from each cap, making promises that he doesn't have the authority to keep. And at the very end, and even still, he's my boy. I don't get it. This character is absolute love to me. Despite all the mistakes he continues to make. I told you not to get involved with her, dog. You've got to show something to merit it. Maybe choice. Dude, that's a beast line. I'm sorry. The fact that I know she's second in command of this, I forgot the name of them. Iron Fang, was it? Completely manipulated in that scenario. Son, even though Anastasia is still at the bottom of my ranking as far as the selection candidates go, I have to give her... I have the utmost respect for her character at this point. She's real as fuck. Son, you got entrapped and manipulated entirely. And this is doing nothing but fueling that hatred. Just bask in the love of Rem, please. Just do that for me, John. Of course. And I'm sure they're making other movements, especially the other fingers that have been bestowed with their individual sins. That fiendish laugh. Dude, I guarantee you that Betelgeuse is the weakest one out of the lot as well. And there's some history of Roswell there. I'll never give up on that until I'm proven otherwise. Yo, where's... Yes, my boy Otto, man! I knew he'd be back. I was just about to say, where's my boy Otto? Yeah, I really love the mercantile lens of this episode. With what? That's true. He did have that huge ass sack. I forgot about that. Human trafficking. It's not a bad move. That gigantic sack. Look at how quick they all set into motion. Just call it a meteor, man. What did you just say about the battery? I need to go back and look at that after I missed that line. Because I just was thinking how he's been charging that shit this whole time. Dart dealings that reek of nothing. Funny. Flugel's tree. Stands so tall on his house. Interesting. Yo, you already know this whoever this Flugel motherfucker is either that kind of throws a wrench into my Rosewall theories then. Because I'm guessing that this individual has links to the sage, if not is in fact the sage that was involved in Satsula's sealing. Yo, the white whale, son! What? Is that the effect of this mist? Yo! Son, hold the fuck on. What the fuck? Don't fucking end it there! How are you gonna end it there, man? We're hearing about the Flugel tree. Yo, that shit is massive too. And the effects of the mist that it released, I'm guessing it's just a higher tier Maju than I forgot the Ulgarm, those hounds that we saw beforehand. I believe that's what they were called. And we finally get to hear this track, which see, this ending is so fucking good. Unfortunately, I've only heard it the one time because every other episode since then has been nothing but pure hype and insanity. Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite EDs. This is probably, well, nah. We got that Megumi Ogata Komaeda ED. I was about to say this is probably the best CV ending this season, but nah. Unfortunately, it gets beat by that. I'm gonna have to watch this episode again because there's a couple of things that I want to think about. Honestly, I'm a little bit happy right now because they inserted some chill in here. I'm able to kind of compose myself after that. I'm a little salty about that cliffhanger because shit was just going in. But this episode had some great exposition and dialogue. The conversation, I think my favorite part of the episode, aside from that Priscilla, as a matter of fact, every single one of those conversations from Krush, Priscilla, and Anastasia were on point. My respect for Anastasia has transcended now. Like I at first I just was dismissive of her. She did have that one line which she was like, I'm exceedingly greedy, so I want everything to be under my control. Which I did really like, but I was like, her character seemed very much in line with Priscilla's at that point. With this episode, you get that kind of separation between the two, to where it's like, yo, no, she there's this whole context about her, this whole lens that she views this world from, that kind of colors things differently. She's an absolute savage, dude, manipulative as fuck. And then Mimi, I don't know, Mimi is interesting, but that ending has me, man. I need to see how that's gonna end up. I definitely think the Flugel, that this wise individual that you know presides over this tree, most likely has links to the Sage, if not is the Sage. And that kind of pushes, if that is confirmed, then my thoughts of Rosewall potentially being the Sage or having ties to the Sage is eliminated. But that's fine, because that was only 50%. That was like one way that I took Rosewall. It branched out there. The other path then I would just put onto it is that rather than being part of that, you know, Sage hero dragon dichotomy, which you already know the Astrea family was in fact the hero, either, you know, one of Reinhardt and Wilhelm's great ancestors, or potentially, like I said early on, one of them is the reincarnation. But I would say that I would just shift Rosewall to just having links to the witches at large. So if it's not Sattva in particular, the witches cult at the very least, and to a certain degree, I'm starting to question. Well, I'll talk about this more in the review. Because I'm actually going to be able to get into a review this week. I think I'm good. I actually really have some things I want to discuss, so I'm going to do that. But before I close this out, I did say that I was going to rank the selection candidates yet again, so I'm going to do that real quick. Leotan, of course, you already know, is still number one, and I'm really hoping we get some shine from her at this point. But I think that seeing her during this mix ultimately results in us witnessing her death yet again, and I don't want to see that. But either way, Leotan is still number one. I would say before I had Priscilla at number 2, Felt at number 3, Krush at number 4, and Anastasia at number 5. Now, still Priscilla's at number 2, but I would say it's almost a tie between Priscilla and Krush. If not, then Krush is at number 3. If I have to pick one over the other, I pick Priscilla over Krush for now. But Krush, every episode, every scene that she's in is absolutely incredible. She's proving herself more and more. Once I see her go in, like you see in the opening, you already know she's going to be savage as fuck. So that might shift some things, but at the same time, the same could be said about Priscilla. So say Amelia, Priscilla, Krush, Felt, and I'm going to tie, no, Felt and then Anastasia, because Felt's dialogue in that episode where she actually committed to the selection was powerful as fuck. But Anastasia surprised me. I wasn't prepared to like her. I thought that we already had this kind of haughty Ojo-san character. We don't need another one. And yet she's completely separated herself with this dialogue in this episode and showcased that she truly is a force to be reckoned with, especially with that Iron Fang army that she has. Mimi is clearly a savage. Nobody's on that, I wouldn't say on that Reinhardt level, but still. Well, it's going to be interesting. And then I'm curious at this stage as to, because I've been thinking about this in the back of my mind for a little bit. Rem isn't a selection candidate. Keep that in mind. I'm not ranking girls in the series. I'm ranking the 5 selection candidates. Otherwise, you'd hear me bringing in Beako and Rem and everything like that. So it's just selection candidates that we're talking about. As far as my best girl is concerned right now, it's still a tie between Amelia and Rem at number 1. But with all that said, what was I going to say? Fuck, it slipped my mind. Oh, I've been thinking about this in the back of my head for a little while now, as far as what Elsa's affiliation is, because at this point we've seen enough about the witches cult, and kind of looking at their garb and looking at Elsa's garb, you could easily just slide Elsa into there, and then I wonder how vaunted the Bow Hunter really is in that kind of set then, if that is in fact her allegiance. There could still be another faction entirely that Elsa is aligned with, or she could have been some sort of, even potentially looking at a level of like, oh, maybe a mercenary type of thing. Elsa was on that, and she was contracted by somebody else, maybe another selection candidate or something like that in order to do this. Either way, if she is in the witches cult, which I'm not 100% sold on that, I still will entertain the idea of there being, you know, another faction or her being contracted by somebody else. But if she's in fact a part of the witches cult, I would say that potentially she could be one of the five, you know, one of the fingers that Betelgeuse was talking about. Now, speaking of that, I have to wait in order to talk more about Betelgeuse himself and what I predict happening with Subaru in this special video that I was planning to make. Didn't get it done, like I said earlier on, but I will have it up sometime this week, especially since we didn't see any of what the topic of the video is in this episode. It's still apt to discuss it as we progress through Arc 3. So, yeah, and Will G is a god. You already know Will G is a god. If Reinhardt is that hacks, you already know this man has to be a god, especially as they refer to him as the Sword Demon. Sword Saint, Sword Demon, both of them are vaunted titles, man, truly. So, I don't know. I don't know right now, and it's tough about that. But no, don't get it twisted. I'm still a loyal guy. As far as, because I know people want me to say this. Rem is absolute love. Yes, I've acquiesced it. Last week, she transcended. She is goddess level. She has reached that goddess status. I refuse to knock down Emilia from my #1 slot because I am a loyal motherfucking dude. EMT for life, but I can't say that Rem is below her. So they're for me right now, they're sitting right next to each other, completely even, especially since I don't think that I think a lot of the effect too that would allow people that say potentially like me, you had Emilia above Rem at first. A lot of the effect that would those same people would be like, nah, fuck Emilia, Rem is far above her, is the fact that while Rem has been pouring so much love into the series in the last handful of episodes, Emilia is nowhere to be seen. She's not getting any shine. So you kind of have to temper that a little bit. But my love for both of them knows no bounds, to the point where even though Subaru is treading a dark path, and that's why I really love all three dialogues between Krush, Priscilla, and Anastasia as to what they tell him, because especially Priscilla's lines, dude, because that kick was well needed. I can't fault Subaru for his movements, but as much as I've been saying, you know, potentially the man, I probably go down the same path to an extent, and I'm willing to accept his wrath at this point because that's how I feel. I want him to slay every single one of those fiends. I do. I truly do. But to the extent that he's taking it, the promises that he's making, the way that he's going about it, and trying to 100%, even still, it's like he's learned to a degree, but as much as he's learned, it's clouded by these sins that are boiling up inside of him. And I love, you know, the idea of now bringing in the 7 deadly sins from the witches of lore to the cult and the breakdown of the fingers and whatever Betelgeuse was talking about with the ordeal, to Subaru himself and his inner character. There's a lot to examine as far as that's concerned. But the man is still lying to himself to a degree. There's still a great deal of arrogance there, and pride there that, you know, is really, and even still, greed as well. Like the title and Priscilla's line showcases to you that there's so many volatile emotions within that represent and evocative of the 7 deadly sins swirling around Subaru, that the man, even still, there's a great deal of selfishness there. There's a great deal of arrogance to where he vaunts himself as the only person that can put a stop to this. Yes, he's willing to bow down and beg for assistance, but as you see him lashing out when that's refused to him, and willing to do and say anything, even when he doesn't have said authority to do so, in order to garner that, showcases that kind of mentality. And which is why when you consider, and this, I don't want to talk too much about this because this is involved in the video that I want to make, that I've been talking about, and I'm sorry to kind of tease you guys with it like that, but it is what it is. But I feel as though in Puck killing him twice in the last episode, it's representative of Puck seeing him through that lens. So it's very interesting. Asking questions as to whether Puck knows about the returns is its own thing entirely, but it's very, there's a lot of factors to consider. But let me go back into this, man, because what I've just decided to do, I've ranted on for long enough at this point. I have yet to look at the chat. But I've ranted on for long enough at this point that I've said a lot of what I want to say, and it would mirror what I want to say in the review. So I'm just gonna go back and finish this as the second half of this being the review for this episode, because I don't know if I want to do a separate review at this point. I guess I still might. I guess I'm still gonna do that actually. Let's just look at the chat. I'll probably take portions of this, slap it in there, or something like that. Who knows? I said could be pride. I think that Subaru is embodying multiple of the sins at this point, but I also think that what happens and who, like let's consider this possibility, right? And especially like even Betelgeuse himself in seeing, because you can see every single sin. Sloth would be the one that you're like, all right, well, how does that factor in? Betelgeuse's words to him last episode and how I interpreted it, where it's like, yo, this is the epitome of sloth right here. You trying to pretend as though you're utterly broken and you know, falling into this despair, so you don't have to do shit, so you don't have to come to terms with anything, and you don't have to make any moves right now. You want people to kind of cater to you at this stage. And it's true to an extent. Subaru's state of mind, you know, at the onset of episode 16, I mean of episode 15, realistically emulated that to an extent. So I definitely feel that. Let's see what's up with the chat though. See what's up with the chat. And please, everyone that's here, smash that like button. I'm really trying to see and visualize as much support for the ReZero content as possible. So destroy the like button. Your support is so greatly appreciated. And it's been amazing thus far. But I don't know. I've actually heard some people trolling and being like, yo, fuck Rem, which I don't understand that. I'll never understand that. It's a bunch of nonsense. It truly is a bunch of nonsense. I see Zara and Mitra have been very active in blocking some shit in the chat. What can you give me any insight into what these individuals were saying though, without spoiling anything? Because realistically, if it's gonna be like that, I'm surprised to see people actually saying that Anastasia is their favorite candidate right now. That's interesting to me. I mean, she's the thing is the prowess and the tactics of Anastasia, the way she's able to manipulate things, and that's the thing that I really like about this. But I'm actually gonna end this here. I would love to delve into the chat more, but I'm gonna end this here because I have a lot of thoughts running through my head and a lot of things I need to dive into the episode and pick apart in order to do a review. And I would love to talk about it here, but it's more apt to just kind of discuss it in the review itself. But a lot of things I mentioned here, I'm probably going to end up leaving out of the review just because. So, case when I get in a couple of days. Oh, that sounds awesome. That sounds amazing. That phone case sounds dope. Super compare and the price, all these things, right? The perfect outcome, virtual ability. Especially events we're not supposed to know yet. Well, that I'm glad. I don't want to see things that we're not supposed to know yet at all. He could be, because there's a degree of arrogance there in that it's not that he places himself above other individuals or thinks of himself as, oh, I have the power in and of myself to, you know, to save everyone. He doesn't. Otherwise, he wouldn't be groveling at Crush and Priscilla's feet. The man's arrogance and sense of pride stems from, and it's very subtle to kind of parse out, but it stems from this notion. I don't know if it's that he's been brought to this world in the first place. He doesn't know about Al yet, which he kind of should have that inkling based on that one scene. But anyway, the fact that he's been brought to this world and that he has the ability of returns to an extent, I'm sure in the back of his subconscious, influences that kind of nature within him to a certain extent. And then even more so pressing onward from that, I think that he thinks that he is really the only, because he has this knowledge, that can put a stop to it, which he's overestimating his importance at all elements of this scenario at large. And at the same time, his involvement is a volatile factor, an element that is causing a lot of change and causing a grand ripple effect within this world at large. But it's realistically at the end of the day, why I don't know. It's weird to kind of describe it to you how I see it that way. I gotta like really think about it for a bit. But with all that said, I'm gonna get up out of here. I want to gather some more thoughts. I feel kind of, I don't know if I'm gonna make a review at this point, because the only things that I haven't said about the episode yet, aside from, we already talked about the Flugel, the potential of, you know, them being related to or being the sage themselves. That cliffhanger, the white whale coming into the mix, which I'm still curious about the effects of that mist to begin with, because Otto was like, yo, there was no one riding over there. What are you talking about? So I wonder if it causes some sort of amnesiac effect to begin with. The only things that I really wanted to talk about in the review that I haven't mentioned in these last 10 minutes of me raving about the episode and talking about different factors about it are diving into and actually, you know, picking apart key pieces of dialogue, from Priscilla's line to, you know, it being the greed of a pig and everything like that. You know, Crucia's dialogue, which was amazing. At the same time, Anastasia as well. Plus just the general economic and mercantile lens that we get with this episode from, what was that dude's name? Russell Fellow, I believe. And everything like that. Plus Anastasia's whole viewpoint of everything, the way that she kind of encapsulates the world during their dialogue when they're sitting there, is a lens that we haven't really, you know, gotten too much of. We've gotten the political side of things, but only so much as the top of things, and as it pertains to, you know, the selection. So it's interesting to see it from this scenario. But I don't know. Before I leave, let me know, do you guys think, are you guys good with everything I've said thus far? Is there anything else you want me to dive into that I should do in a review separately? Or is this good? Because I'm probably just going to chop this off, throw it in a review, and then I'll probably just add the other bits that I wanted to talk about in there instead of making a whole new review, because I've talked about a lot of stuff that I would have talked about in the review anyway. So we'll see how it goes, man. I'm really hoping that Subaru will temper himself just a little bit going forward in this episode, despite what happens with the white whale in episode 17, because that's going to be curious. That's a factor which he hasn't come across it as to yet. It's been foreshadowed and set up to this point, but it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, man. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. So the episode 15 is the GOAT right now, but that's pretty much it. I'm going to get up out of here. Talk about the whale. I mean, I've already talked about the whale to an extent, I guess. All right, fine. This is the review, guys. This is a review. I'm going to chop it off and I'm going to upload it as a separate thing too. So I'm not filming a separate review. I'm telling you that right now. But as far as the whale is concerned, I've pretty much talked about it to an extent. The mist clearly has some sort of mind-altering effect and power. Clearly, because Otto is like, yo, there's nobody over there. So clearly has an amnesiac effect. I wonder how that's going to play forward. And if the whale itself will actually attack and cause a returns or anything like that. I don't think so, to be honest. But what happens when this entire caravan Subaru is leading over to Roswell's territory is decimated because of this incident, and nobody really remembers what the fuck is going on. I wonder if it's going to affect Rem, Subaru himself, or if he'll be the only one to kind of escape its effects. Either way, the whale in and of itself, you already know it's a Maju. You already know it's one of these beasts created by the Witch Satel as the lore goes. Definitely of a much higher class than the Ulgarm that we saw, you know, in Arc 2, those hounds that we saw in Arc 2, because even just the passive effect of this mist is leagues and bounds of anything that those creatures did, aside from, you know, the small little mutt that transformed and was actually the one controlling the massive horde of the Ulgarm, being able to kind of manipulate and energy drain the children. That's pretty much the extent of their ability. So they were definitely a low class Maju, whereas I definitely think the white whale is a much higher class Maju. So anything else people want to mention? I really do want to, I guess, wait, give me a second, because I can edit this shit too. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm probably gonna end up doing this because right now I have a lot of energy to talk about ReZero. Whereas before I talked about it, but it was in that kind of daze. I wasn't saying anything that I really wanted to get to as far as analyzing the episode. But let me get back into this Crush dialogue real quick, because even if I like Subaru's wrath at this stage, like I keep saying, the appearance and embodiment of the sins within him to every single degree. From we just need to slay them all, and that will save everyone. And Creature just like that murderous glint in your eye. What else would you call that? The fact that she's like, I generally know. I can generally tell when the person with whom I am speaking is lying. So I know that you are not. But ultimately, the conversation boils down to, what do I stand to gain from this? One. Two, what sort of authority do you think you have in order to command this of me and offer up Amelia's candidacy as something of a bargaining chip? Who are you on that stage? And that kind of annoys me as well, to a certain extent. The fact that Wilhelm stepped up in there was amazing to me. And then ultimately, three, what wait, no, I lost it. Let's see, where was I going with that? Fuck. See, this is the problem with doing this live. I lost it already. Oh yeah, and three, how can I realistically, even though I know you're like with no knowledge of how you're professing this information, how can I realistically trust you? Even calling him out so much to say you've never and Rem covers for him 100%, because think about Rem back during Arc 2 and her own suspicions of him being a member of the witch's cult. So he's like, yo, you've never once suspected this? Because I get this inclination that he is, in fact. How else does he have this knowledge unless you're willing to tell me this? I know you're not lying, but ultimately it boils down to the fact that there's no reason for me to assist you with this. So it's interesting. And even going as far as to be like, this is nothing more than your quest for vengeance against the witch's cult, which to an extent, it kind of is. To an extent, it kind of is. But it's a future vengeance for things that haven't happened yet. So it's very interesting. The discerning eye of Cruch and just her deductive prowess is on another level, right? Reinhardt's gone. The conversation with Priscilla is absolutely amazing. The way that she talks down, the general air that bleeds off of her, and of course her design. She's just bae, dude. She's absolute bae, so fucking sexy. Her mentality, the fact that she thinks, and that arrogance is something that is clearly able to be backed up by her status, by whatever sort of to an extent, because I, along with a couple of other people that are anime only to this series, have been speculating that the blessings, like especially like for example when Amelia blessed Subaru before he was heading out in Arc 2, that actually carries some sort of weight, and that potentially Reinhardt has those on him as well. I know that for a fact because of the hacks breakdown of his abilities that I accidentally stumbled across once. But as far as Priscilla goes, this fact that she says that everything acquiesces and bows before her, that things just bend to her whim, this extreme amount of S-class luck, I think backs up. And then she's probably an insane, maybe, probably even transcending Bayako level magic user. So that was interesting. She tells him to lick her foot like a wretched beast, man, and absolutely exposes him with the kick. And she's just like, you really are an insignificant man, dude. And when I thought about how she plays with that and what that scene really exposes, there's a lot of truth to what she says. It's not any sort of grand, air of him, discarding his pride in order to have her help him. No. It's this dependence and pig's greed, as she says, to an extent. And it's crazy to how complex Subaru's character really is at this stage, because a lot of the things that he professes, a lot of his mentality, even the manifestation of these sins, are multi-layers of his base persona and the experiences that he's gone through. So that shit is amazing to me. There's a lot of subtlety. This is something that I would have said in the review, but there's a lot of subtlety to this conversation, this brief dialogue between her and Al, where she calls him, and we hear his full name for the first time, I believe, unless we heard it before. But Aldebaran is the man's first name. I'm guessing that's a given name, because I 100% believe, and please nobody spoil this for me if I'm wrong or not, but I 100% believe that, like Subaru, Al was put into this world. My greater question, and this is something I'll save for a later discussion, but my greater question is, how? Was it another one of the witches at that point then that drew him in? And then if that's the case, does Priscilla have ties to another one of the witches prior, because I think that there's a lot of things shrouded in mystery of the lore and what has been passed down that either there's been deviations made, there's been changes made, or it's just inaccurate to a certain degree. Because I even this idea, this notion of Sasla being this kind of evil force and trying to destroy Afterworld, I don't think that's 100% intentional. And as me with my theories of Amelia being that kind of vessel, with the old persona of Sasla being sealed, and Amelia's personality taking root via everything that transpired in that past. I don't know how temporally it works and how she's here at this stage, but I believe that the Dragon Seal has a great deal to do with it. But either way, I'm getting off track. The point is that Al, we know definitely, at least I believe that he came into this world similar to Subaru because of the mere fact that he knew what a Kansai accent was. So that's a giveaway. But then the fact that he continually calls him Kyodai, calls him brother, kind of establishing this tie between them. And you can feel a similar air about both of these characters that I felt ever since we met Al to begin with, even though I was just, when we first met him, I was captivated by the fact that they got the GOAT as his voice actor. But he draws him out. The one thing that I really like is Al's line to Priscilla was like, don't anger yourself so much. You'll ruin your beautiful face. And she says, who do you think you're talking to? Unless you want your face ruined, your ruined face ruined further. I'm like, yo, I'm just like, I've told you not to call me that, or whatever she called. I forgot the name that he called her. Hold on, let me see that real quick. No, it's not even important. But the point is, you know then that underneath that knight's helm, that he's disfigured in some way. And then the question is, I can't wait to find out what transpired in the past to make that happen in the first place. The encounter with Mimi was hilarious. I actually really like Mimi. At first, I was like, I don't know about this cutesy character. It's making Anastasia's faction seem even more ridiculous to me. But knowing that she's the second in command of this vaunted Iron Fang, unit is crazy to me. But the last thing I want to talk about is Anastasia's dialogue, because it was on point. It was absolutely on point. Trying to get on the other's good side is the basic rule of negotiation, and that's where you're lacking. I'm just like, son, this is absolutely amazing, dude. The way she manipulates him through the course of this whole conversation and parses out of it the meeting between Russell Fellow and Krush is crucial, and that's going to set back the Karsten family's whole movements in them, because clearly there's this large scale rivalry between her family and Anastasia's family that's going to be interesting to see in and of itself. But the entirety of her dialogue, man, there were so many good lines that I can't really get into right now, just kind of flipping through it right now. Wait, what's the last line that I really, really like? Know what the other person wants and dangle it in front of them, dude. Like that, you can tell, dude, the prowess of Anastasia. I have so much respect for this character that never existed before. I really like that. And then bringing Otto back was something that I knew was going to happen again during this arc. But to see them actually stumble across the White Whale at this point and the venture to the Flugel Tree in and of itself was very interesting to me. So that's pretty much it. I'm done ranting. I really enjoyed this episode. We got a modicum of chill from Tape at this point in the arc, which I was not expecting. I was really expecting it to just barrel on with pure insanity all the way through. So that's actually really nice. But I don't think Subaru is lazy, man. To an extent, with his actions last episode, you can kind of categorize it as such. To an extent. But yeah, I have no idea what's happening. There's so much I missed in the chat right now. It's too hard for me to catch back up on it. There's way too much that I missed. But I'm going to get up out of here, guys. Thank you so much for coming through the stream. Smash that like button if you enjoyed this episode or enjoyed the stream at all. And I will catch you guys next week for episode 17. I am actually going to upload the second half of this stream as its own separate review and chop it off of the stream. So look forward to that if you guys care. I'm going to edit it, make it flow better, and it'll be easier for me, because then I pretty much said everything I want to say. And I don't want to sit down and record a whole nother video of me saying the exact same thing. So hope you guys understand that, but I'm out. Peace.